just saw, even in early access, Path of Exile 2 is a big game. It's actually been 5 years since we announced PoE 2. Over that time, we've revealed a lot, but it's been in bits and pieces. It's pretty hard to keep track of it all, so today we're going to do a full rundown of all the content that will be available at the start of early access. Classes, character progression systems, and for the first time, a full overview of the endgame. This is gonna be a big one, so get comfortable. For 20 years, Rayclast has been free from any sources of corruption, but the Count of Ogham, tempted by promises of power, intends to harness it once more. The dead are rising, monsters are mutating, and madness is spreading. Under the dark influence of corruption, the Count doles out sentences of death to anyone who would question him. And this is where you find yourself at the start of PoE 2. Explore the dark forests of Ogham, traverse the barren plains of the Vesteri Desert, and delve into the jungle ruins of Utsal, an ancient Vaal city. There are challenging monsters, hidden runes, lost camps and treasures, roaming merchants, and of course, unique bosses. No two areas are the same. It falls to you to track down the seed of corruption, the source of all this devastation. On the way, you'll face fearsome monsters, meet strange characters, forge unlikely bonds, and uncover lost civilizations. But first, you'll need to pick a class. Now, early access will initially have 6 classes available. Let's have a look at them. The Monk is a Like all classes in PoE 2, you'll want to use a wide variety of skills to mix and match different combos. On the way, you'll face fearsome monsters, meet strange characters, forge unlikely bonds, and uncover lost civilizations. But first, you'll need to pick a class. Now, early access will initially have 6 classes available. The Monk is a fast and furious melee fighter. He dashes in and out of combat with momentum. You'll want to use a wide variety of skills to mix and match different combos. To get new skills, you will first need to find skill gems. Using a skill gem will open the gem cutting menu, which shows all the active skills available in PoE 2. You can choose an existing skill to level up, or choose to engrave a new one. Since this is a level 7 be level 7, so there's no harm in trying out something new. The Monk primarily uses the quarterstaff. There are 3 schools of martial arts: lightning, ice, and wind. These combos are going to involve mixing elements of all 3. Let's try killing Palm. Quickly take advantage of a specific situation. If there's an enemy on low life, you can use Killing Palm to dash to them and kill them instantly. This will provide we can use a different skill. The Monk also has powerful combo skills. Tempest Bell, for example, is a skill that places a giant resonating bell. Things like freeze or shock the bell, which will add elemental damage to the strikes. The Monk also has a variety of abilities to empower his staff. If an enemy is close to being stunned, you can use Staggering Palm to punch them down. After that, any attack you do will shoot out wind projectiles. There are 21 active skills for quarterstaves, so this just scratches the surface. In-game, you'll be dashing from pack to pack, spewing projectiles and obliterating screens of enemies with huge combo attacks. Now, if you like a style of melee that's a little slower but hits much harder, then the warrior is for you. He pounds the ground with big chunky attacks and can shrug off. Even though the mace slams are slow, you never lose control. Longer attacks can be retargeted as you go, and if you find yourself committed to a long attack, you can dodge roll out of it at any time. Among the skill option for maces, you'll find a variety of slams, fire attacks, war cries, and shield skills. Here, I'm going to slam the ground, rending it apart with lines of fire. Any slam skill will then cause these fissures to erupt with lava. I can even run through them with a skill like Stampede to do huge amounts of damage.
Path of Exile-თან განსხვავებით, Path of Exile-ში ძალიან ბევრი კომბოს ტიპის სკილები იქნება. ერთი სკილი მეორეს დაატრიგერებს, გააძლიერებს და ასე შემდეგ. კომბო სისტემები იქნება უთქვეს.
If you want to go a little faster and be a little more defensive, equip a shield. In PoE 2 you can raise
და დაჟე Warrior შეუძლია რომ real time-ში shield-ი დაახვედროს სკილებს დაატაკებს.
Stun meter will build as you take damage. So be careful.
აუ რა მაგარია ფარი დგას და თავს იცავს გადაო.
Some enemies also have unblockable attacks which are indicated by this red flash.
წითლად თუ განაცდება სკილი, ესე იგი ფარი არ გიშველისო რა, საღოლ.
Using a shield also gives you access to shield skills like shield charge.
shield charge-იც არის. აუ რა სკილი დააგდო და მე დალეწა ბიჭო.
Also blocking the whole time, so you have full damage immunity from the front.
Warrior-ის stats კარგი იქნება. ახალი კლასია Path of Exile-ში Warrior-ი არისო. ანუ Monkey და Warrior-ი აქამდე რაც იყო, ეგენი არც ერთი არისო.
But you can also get ancestral warrior totems which allow you to use any slam skill in your repertoire. This is a meta skill.
SUI-ს ახალია, არც ეს არისო. აქამდე Path of Exile-ში რაც gear-ზე იყო skill gem-ების ერთმანეთთან დაკავშირება, ანუ აიტემებს აღარ ექნება საერთოდ რა, ისინი სოკეტები. Ცალკე UI-ია მაგ სოკეტებსა და gem-ების დასაკავშირებლად.
So there's a lot more to try out. But by end game you're going to be dropping hammers from the sky, leaping fearlessly into combat.
მაგარი ცხოველი იქნება Warrior-ი გული მიგწნობს.
Time for some ranged attacks. The ranger is primarily about the bow, but we wanted to make sure that she feels
Ranger-ი ძველი სკოლაა, იასნია. Lightning arrow-ები და toxic rain-ები და
the ranger has that allow you to jump around, you'll have a lot of mobility in combat.
ისეთი ანიმაცია რო აქვს, მაგრამ მე ვასვასევით რო წევს შვილდის არს.
Lightning, poison, ice and physical attacks.
იასნია, poison და physical-ი ექნება
Bounce
ხა.
around between targets. You can also stick lightning arrows in the ground which explode when hit by the bouncers, or electrocute enemies to take them out of combat.
დაახლოებით 2-3 ლიგა ჩემი მეინი იყო Ranger-ი. დედაი ვითამაშე, სერიოზული იყო დედაი, ყველაფერს წმინდავდა. დაახლოებით 300-400 დივაინიანი ბილდი მქონდა, მაგრა ვფარ name expansion-ზე. Mage blood-ი მქონდა და რა ვიცი, სერიოზული ბილდი მქონდა დედაიზე, აი რა ვიცი.
You might have noticed in the bottom left of the screen that the flask slots look a little different. In PoE 2 you have one dedicated life flask slot and one mana flask slot. Flasks gain charges as you kill enemies.
რა საინტერესოა, მარტო mana და HP-ს ფლესკი უდევს ახლა ბარზე და. Utility ფლესკები სად არის?
Charms are a new item type that will automatically defend you from various debuffs or damage.
აუ, გადაო ფლესკები არ გავაუქმოთ, მაგრამ გამიტყდება, utility ფლესკები ძალიან სერიოზული იყო.
When it's fully charged, it will make you immune to freeze for 3 seconds if you get frozen. To recharge them, just kill more monsters. You can gain more slots for charms by upgrading your belt.
ანუ რაღაც ჩარმების სისტემაა კამარზე მიბნული? Mercenary, აი ეს არის რითიც ვითამაშებ, ჩემი მომავალი მეინი. ნახე რა სერიოზულია Mercenary. Crossbow-ი მოძრაობს, ეს ახალია, Path of Exile-ში არც არ იყო.
Sniper rifles, assault
ანუ
rifles,
სნაიპერი, ასაულტი, Winchester-ი, ამ ტიპის ისინი ოღონდ crossbow-ა რა.
It's very fast to switch between ammo types as long as you already have them loaded, which makes the mercenary
გრანატებს ყრის მე აფეთქებს სასწაულია იმენა Mercenary. და early access-ը იქნება, რაც სავარია.
create walls of ice to separate enemies, then switch to fragmentation rounds to explode the ice, dealing massive AoE damage. If I come across an armored enemy, I could use armor-piercing rounds to break their armor, and then high-velocity rounds to take them down. Or perhaps I could fire a gas grenade to poison enemies before detonating the cloud with an explosive shot for massive damage. If you want to call in some suppressing fire, you can summon artillery ballistas. These have a minimum range, so you'll want to prepare your position carefully before moving in. There are 22 active skills for crossbows. By endgame, you'll be calling destruction down from the sky as you litter the battlefield with an automatic shotgun.
Mercenary ძალიან მაგარია.
And let your minions do the work, then the witch should be your choice. She can call forth hordes of undead monsters to fight for her while casting powerful chaos spells that debilitate her enemies.
ვიჩი უფრო არის ნეკრომანსერის სტილზე რა მინიონები გამოყავს. რამდენჯერმე ვცადე რომ ეთამაშა, მაგრამ ჩემი არ არის რა მინიონების ბილდი.
This is a spirit gem which allows you to pick from a range of persistent
ახალი რესურსი ემატება სპირიტი. მანის მაგივრად ალბათ.
Like Arctic armor which does cold damage to enemies that hit you, or raging spirits which summon fiery skulls each time you cast a fire spell. For the witch though, we'll want to be using our spirit to create permanent minions. These minions will be revived automatically when they die, so you don't have to worry about resummoning them all the time. Here I'm using the skill screen to allocate which minions I would like in my horde. You can see the spirit cost of each one. Skeletal warriors are cheap but weak. Useful for tanking down.
Seka Diablos gავს საშკარად Diablo 4-ში. დაახლოებით ეს ტიპია, როცა მინიონების ტიპებს აძლიერებ. იმის მიხედვით შენ როგორ გინდა რომ იყოს რა მოწყობილი.
You can order these guys to detonate your own minions for even more damage and area of effect. If you want a bigger army, you'll need a scepter. This new weapon type is imbued with even more spirit, allowing you to summon even more friends. And if you want an even bigger army than that, you can take advantage of corpses to summon true hordes of minions. But what can a witch do while her army is at work? Well, she has a range of chaos spells to spread disease amongst your enemies, or bone skills to impale them. Or, you could curse them to make them weaker so your horde can take them down. There are 25 active occult skills. By the end game, you'll be the leader of a fearsome army of the dead, consuming everything in its
path. რა ეფექტებია შეიძლება ვიდეო კარტა დადნეს ეს ამას რო ვითამაშებ.
The sorceress bends the elements to her will, using them to unleash devastation on her foes.
რა მაგარი სკილი გააძრო.
Elemental magic from afar.
ელემენტალისტი
Everything you might expect and more.
Sorcerer-ი შეიძლება ვითამაშო Sorcerer-ი ძალიან მევასება რა. Last Epoch-ში ვითამაშე Sorcerer-ი, Diablo-ში ვითამაშე Sorcerer-იც მაგარია, pure magic რა.
Flame Wall conjures a burning line that not only damages enemies, but also empowers all projectiles that pass through it. If you place a wall and fire lightning sparks through it, they'll gain extra fire damage. It's a good idea to take advantage of the ability to automatically swap weapons when you use certain skills. Having a special staff with bonuses to fire skills and another with bonuses to lightning skills can really power up a combo like this. The Sorceress can also take advantage of powerful trigger gems. For example, you could grab the Cast and Ignite gem and use it with Firestorm. As you ignite enemies, a counter will go up in the top left corner. When it's full, a Firestorm will automatically be cast at the enemy that was ignited. There are 25 active elemental skills. By endgame, you'll be firing off projectiles left and right as you rain down elemental storms on your foes.
ეს რა მაგარია elemental storm-ი რა.
Will be available at the start of early access, but we will be adding 6 more characters.
Sorcerer-ი ხوار ვითამაშა mercenaries მაგივრად.
There's a lot more to come. There's one more important thing to mention about skills. Even though we talk about them as belong to each class, in reality there are no restrictions. You can use all these skills on any class so long as you have the attributes. For example, a poison ranger might want to try out using occult curses to increase her poison damage. Or a monk might want to trigger elemental ice walls to use with his glacial cascade combo. The possibilities for cross
Also Exile-საც აქ მაგალითად საუბრობს არის რომ ნებისმიერ კლასს შეუძლია ნებისმიერი skill gem-ის გამოყენება. Mage შეუძლია warrior-ის მაგია გამოიყენოს თუ ატრიბუტები აქვს, warrior შეუძლია mage-ის მაგიები გამოიყენოს. ეს ძალიან მაგარია.
So let's talk about support gems. Path of Exile 2 has a system of support gems that can be combined with your active skills to dramatically change the way they work. If you find a support gem, then right-clicking it will open up this screen. Here you will find a variety of recommended support gems for each of your skills that you can pick between. For example, this is a multiple projectiles support gem and can be used to add multiple projectiles to any skill. Normally, when you fire a grenade, it'll look like this. But if we add multiple projectiles, then you get 3 of them.
Multiple projectile აქაც მაგარი იქნება.
You can also freely move it between any of the skills in your character. If you want to have a multi-shot sniper rifle instead, then simply move the gem over to your high-velocity round skill. Generally speaking, if it sounds like a support gem should work with a skill, then it will work. So it's a good idea to experiment. Note that you can only have one of each support gem on your character, so you'll want to think carefully about which supports can be used best with each skill for maximum.
ხედავ, ერთი ცალი შეგიძლია support-ზე გამოიყენო. ეს რა უცნაურია?
But if you want to experiment,
ანუ ერთ support gems გამოიყენებ მარტო ერთ skill-ზე მთელ ბილდში?
See the full list of supports that will work with your skill. There are hundreds of support gems to choose from, and even
ამას უყურე რამდენი skill gem-ებია, ბიჭო, სიგიჟია.
each skill can have up to 5 supports socketed into it. And if you're clever, you can come up with some pretty interesting ideas. Now all of this is just scratching the surface. You can make frost vortexes, break people's armor, make minions explode, make skills repeat, make enemies set each other on fire, cull enemies, or pin them to the ground. Supports let you drastically change the behavior of your skills and create your own unique build, or at least follow someone's OP build guide. So, speaking of builds, let's talk about
skill tree შეხედა.
Exile systems, the passive skill tree. Yes.
ეს არის Path of Exile-ის ტალანტების სისტემა, ხალხო. ანუ WoW-ში როგორი ტალანტების ხეა, ხო იცით და ეს არის Path of Exile-ის.
But try not to be scared. There are lots of options, but at its core, it's pretty simple. Each level you get 1 point.
დაამშვიდა რა, კი ძალიან ისეთიაო, დიდიაო, მაგრამ მარტივიაო.
Each class starts at a different location, but they all share the same tree. Around your section of the tree, you'll find relevant bonuses for your character. You should be safe in the knowledge that there aren't many wrong choices here. Almost all the starting nodes will be useful for your character in some way. But if you do happen to make a choice you regret, you'll be able to respec any nodes you've taken by spending a little bit of gold.
რა მაგარია, აი, გოლდით იქნება ტალანტების შემოყრავა. დღეს საუბრობდით მაგაზე, რომ აი დარესეტება ტალანტების თuliაო და გოლდით შემოიყრება. იდეალურია.
You'll find small nodes that give simple bonuses like increased damage, but the real power comes from notables. Notables normally have much more interesting bonuses, and they tend to care a lot more about how your build works and what skills you're using. For example, in the mercenary area of the tree, this one gives a 25% chance for crossbow skills to not consume a bolt. And here's one that gives grenades a chance to blow up a second time. This one gives a chance for projectiles to rebound off terrain, as well as giving you some pierce chance to make that more likely. Note that even though this is in the mercenary section, this would work with projectiles from all classes, so there are often reasons to go to different areas of the tree. In order to get between these clusters, you will generally
ესეც ძალიან მაგარია. სამი სტატი იყო intelligence, dexterity და strength და შეგიძლია გადაათამაშო. ადრე იყო რომ ერთი ადგილი ერთ წელს გაძლოდა და ეხლა შეგიძლია შენ თვითონ აირჩიო.
You can change which attribute these nodes give you for half price.
ანუ ეს ძალიან მაგარი რაღაცაა. ბევრი ფილზე იყო რომ intelligence მაკლდებოდა ან strength და უნდა გეძებნა სად იყო სხვაგან და ეხლა შეგიძლია უბრალოდ გადაცვალო.
And often require changing your entire build.
Oh, chaos inoculation.
A great example
is
Giant's Blood, which allows you to wield two-hand weapons in a single hand, but doubles the attribute requirements of them. You can use a two-hand mace with a shield, or even dual wield them.
Dual wield ari?
Or how about Mind Over Matter, which makes all damage go to your mana pool first before your life pool, but you lose 50% of your mana regen. Skills like these can be tough to build around, but if you're up for the challenge, they can be very rewarding. As we showed you earlier on the Sorceress, you can swap between weapon sets on the fly as you use certain skills. One of the new features in Path of
იარაღებზე იქნება მიბმული ბევრი რაღაცაო, ხო? ორი იარაღი იქნება და ორივეზე შეგიძლია ბილდი აირჩიო.
For the Sorceress, you might want to
თქვა Sorceress-ზე შეგიძლია fire-ი განავითარო ერთი პირველი იარაღზე და მეორე იარაღზე lightning-ი.
fire and lightning specialization.
და იარაღს რო გადასვლი, ტალანტიც გადაიცვლება.
Between one hand and a two-hand setup in order to be able to block boss attacks while following up with heavy hits from your bigger mace. Or perhaps you could have a full curse setup on your witch to debuff enemies before switching to a chaos degen build for maximum damage. If you want to stick with just one weapon set, you can just use these specialization points as bonus points to invest however you like, but creative players will find plenty of opportunities with this system. You can get weapon specialization points throughout the campaign from optional bosses and quests. For example, if I manage to defeat the Crowbell, I'll get a weapon specialization book. There are lots of other boosts available from the campaign too.
Companies როკაც როგორი სხვანაირია?
Many optional encounters you can find. Some of them have permanent character boosts, and others have powerful
King in the Mist, ეს კიდეა.
It might be a good idea to explore and see what you can find. For example, if you defeat Blackjaw the Remnant, you'll gain a permanent increase to fire resistance. One of the most important finds are spirit bonuses. You can find the first one here in the canopy in Act 1. Defeat the boss in this area to acquire a permanent addition of spirit. The permanent buffs you gain from spirit are very powerful, and every class will find a use for them, so make sure you hunt down these upgrades. There's one in each act. Now we haven't even talked about the most important element of character progression, items. That's why we're all here, right? Items in Path of Exile can be broken down into 4 rarity groups: normal, magic, rare, and unique.
ხო, ეს იგივეა.
One of the things you're going to want to do as you play through the campaign is upgrade the items you find. And you can do that with currency.
Exile-ები არის, transmutation-ი არის.
Will allow you to upgrade a normal item.
შეუძლიათ ვიზუალურად augmentation-ი.
Then apply an orb of augmentation.
ეს chaos orb-ია, ხო? Regali.
To add a third mod, and upgrade it to a rare. Finally, you can use some exalted orbs to add more mods to your rare to a total of 6 mods.
ეს იგივეა იდეაში crafting-ის თემა.
One of the things we think is really important is to make these options available to use as you play. All the items that add mods are much more common than they were in Path of Exile 1, so that you can use them throughout your campaign playthrough. We want you to find things on the ground that can be crafted into upgrades much more frequently. As well as making the drop rates
დროფები გაზრდილიაო, ეგ კარგია.
also get them by disenchanting unwanted gear at the magic item vendor. If you disenchant magic items, you can build up to an orb of transmutation, and by disenchanting rares, you can build up to regal orbs. Another important area of crafting items in PoE2 is sockets. Some items you find will have sockets that add more mods to the item. If I insert this glacial rune into my helmet, it will give extra cold resistance. This is a great way to solve problems that you have with your build, like resistances or damage. If you find socketed items that you don't have a use for, you can take them to the salvage bench in town to work towards an artificer's orb. This will allow you to add sockets to your existing items. Body armors and two-hand weapons can have up to 2 sockets, while the rest of your armor and one-hand weapons can only have 1 socket. You can also salvage items with quality to create items like armor scraps or whetstones. These will allow you to increase the quality of your items for an up to 20% boost. If you don't want to disenchant or salvage your items, you can always sell them for gold. Gold can be used to buy items from vendors, and we've tried to do a lot to make sure that the items they have for sale are actually useful. Every time you level up, they get more stock, so make sure to check back often. Other vendors offer a gamble. Pay a flat amount of gold and you'll get a random item of a specific type.
ეს იდეაში სადაც იყო ხოლმე.
If you're lucky. Gold is also used to respec your passive skills. Take advantage of the system to experiment with
ტალანტების შემოყრა შეგიძლია.
The other thing you might want to use gold for is the currency exchange. This allows you to exchange currency items with other players on an open market.
ეს დაიმატა სათელო ქალგურზე ტრეიდინგი რა, ეს ძალიან მაგარი რაღაცაა. კარგია რომ აქაც დატოვეს.
We never bind anything to your character except gold. Now, most gear in Path of Exile 2 is randomly generated, but there's another type that isn't. Uniques. They are especially rare, each with a handcrafted set of unusual mods which can dramatically change a character's build. They're not just better rare items, they can do much stranger things that can fundamentally change your character. Corpse Wade will make any corpses you run through explode into clouds of poison. The Sands of Silk is a body armor that changes your dodge roll into a blink, morphing you into sand as you teleport past your foes. And of course, some uniques are just pure hits of dopamine, like Quill Rain, which just turns your bow attacks into full auto by doubling your attack speed. Each unique is something that you can build your character around. We try to make sure that most unique items have a potential use at endgame. And as you can see, every single unique item comes with custom art to match. The last character progression system that you can do during the campaign is Ascension.
ამასოლოდებით endgame ეს არის.
You will come across Ascension trials.
ლაბირინთი აღარ არის?
To unlock your Ascension class. We'll explain these trials soon, but first let's take a look at what Ascending can do for your character. Each class has access to 3 Ascendancy classes, but at the start of early access, only 2 per class will be available. Ascendancy classes
ეს არის მეტატალანტი რა, იდეაში აი თქვა მეიჯი თუ ხარ. Fire გინდა იყო Frosty თუ Arcane, ესა ირჩევ აქაც რა. ოღონდ ძალიან აძლიერებ.
A master of the elements. Tempest Caller causes elemental storms to be summoned each time you do a critical hit with a spell. With Strike twice, you can stack 2 copies of Shock for more damage. And going deeper into the tree, you can make all your damage types apply shock. Any skill. Alternatively, you could become a Chronomancer and command time itself.
Wow! Chronomancer.
Time freeze. Using Temporal Rift, she can teleport back to a previous location, resetting her life and mana back to what it was. Or with Time Snap, she can reset all her cooldowns and cast all her spells again. On the Warrior, you can choose between the Warbringer or the Titan. The Warbringer channels the might of his ancestors to gain tremendous power. Using Answered Call, you can summon ancestral spirits linked to each of your totems. With Jade Heritage, you can encase your body in a protective layer that absorbs all damage until it breaks. Warcaller's Bellow allows you to explode the corpses of your enemies. And with Great Wolf's Howl, you can ignore the cooldowns of your war cries. Let all that anger out. The Titan class is all about hitting big. With Earthbreaker, every slam is a chance to crush.
Titani.
With Crushing Impacts, every hit becomes a crushing blow, which will allow you to stun your enemies with ease. With Surprising Strength, you can take advantage of stunned enemies to deal 40% more damage. As a ranger, you might choose to be a Deadeye, an expert markswoman who can take down foes with style.
Oh, Deadeye, House of Exile erchits არის.
Every attack gains an extra projectile. With Gathering Winds, she gains a small increase to movement speed with every attack. But be careful, she loses them when getting hit. With Eagle Eyes, she will never miss, allowing you to stop wasting all those passive points on accuracy. Alternatively, you could become a Pathfinder, the master of flasks.
Oh, ეგეც იგივეა, Pathfinder-ი. ფლესკებით იყო ძლიერი.
Allowing her to spend her flask charges to throw explosive bottles that deal various types of damage. A bleeding concoction will make your enemies bleed, while a fulminating one can shock your enemies, allowing you to do extra damage.
კი ძალიან მაგარია ეს რაღაცა სასწაულია Path of Exile 2 არ ვიცი რა.
While overwhelming toxicity doubles the number of stacks they can be infected by. Running Assault allows her to move much more quickly while firing.
ან Ranger-ი იდეაში იგივე, ახლა დიდი ცვლილება არაფერი არ არის. Deadeye და Pathfinder-ი იქაც იყო.
The Witch can ascend into the Infernalist or the Blood Mage. As an Infernalist, she can summon a loyal Hellhound companion. The Hellhound sets enemies on fire.
Oh, Witch-ი იდეაში Summoner-ია რა.
Gets hit. With Pyromantic Pact, you can turn your mana into Infernal Flame. As you cast more spells, the flame builds up, and if it overflows, you'll take damage. Using Bringer of Flame, you'll want to make sure you keep the flames topped up. While your Infernal Flame is above 30%, all damage from you and your minions will ignite enemies. She can also transform into a
ეს teaser-შიც იყო.
While in demon form, she takes an increasing amount of damage.
Demonis forma ნახე რა.
As well. So if you're planning on transforming into a demon, make sure you stack a lot of life recovery. She can also become a Blood Mage, a master of life and energy. All Blood Mages must pay the price of making skills cost life as well as mana, but in exchange, every monster they kill will drop life remnants, which allow them to quickly gain back that life. With Crimson Power, she can gain large amounts of extra life, and with Vitality Siphon, she can use her spells to leech life back as well. Once you've got a significant amount of life, you can use Gore Spike to make your critical hits deal incredible amounts of damage. A monk who is in tune with the elements might become an Invoker. With Elemental Expression, the Invoker will create waves of elemental power each time he does a...
ან Monkey რა ვიცი, ჩემთვის ძალიან ის არის რა. Shores მყოფი კლასია.
more elemental ailments. Some monks choose to reach into the darkness instead. The Acolyte of Chayula can exchange their mastery of spirit for darkness, a resource that can be utilized to both absorb and deal damage.
მეგობრებო, ცოტა ჭედავს და ხარისხი დაუწია ოთოზე. არ გეგონოთ რომ ესეთი ცუდი თამაშია Path of Exile. Просто სერიოზული ინტენტის ვისაა დღეს. ჩავარდნა.
Increased resistances to chaos damage and can allow their mana leech to not only happen instantly, but apply to their energy shield as well. Another node you can take is Waking Dream, which allows you to see into the domain of the Breach Demons. There you will see the flames of Chayula that can be taken to gain life, mana, and damage. The mercenary has a job to do. You might choose to become a witch hunter. Obsessive rituals will give you a sorcery ward, allowing you to defend yourself against elemental hits in exchange for less defense against Zealous Inquisition. Your enemies have a 10% chance to explode on death. The chance is doubled against demons and undead. An Executioner. Your initial hit against enemies can deal up to 30% of their life and damage, if you're lucky. This is great for hunting powerful bosses. And with Witchbane,
ეს ბოსს არის killer-ი.
them from casting spells as often as they would usually do. You could also choose to become a Gemling Legionnaire, enhancing your abilities by embedding gems directly in your flesh. Integrated efficiency will give you extra skill slots.
აუ ეს assault rifle-ის ის რო აქ ყველაზე მაგარია. როც ხრილავს რა.
Adaptive capability allows you to use any color of gem, while crystalline potential adds extra quality bonuses to every gem socketed into your character. So those are the ascendancy classes for the start of it, yet is how you ascend in the first place. Ascension in Path of Exile 2 requires completion of one of the great trials.
ეს ლაბირინთის შემცვლელია?
Through the campaign. Each one is associated with one of the major cultures of Rayclast. Located in the Vasteri plains are the Maraketh, a culture of rich tales and brutal traditions, who must do whatever it takes to survive in the desert. The highest position in Maraketh culture is a Sekima, and it is not a title given freely. All aspirants must complete the trial of the Sekimas, a grueling gauntlet that will test their strength, will, cunning, and patience. To enter, a warrior of the Maraketh must prove their worth by trapping the soul of a jinn in a coin, and you are no different.
ეს რაღაც ახალი ლაბირინთის არის რა, puzzle, ლაბირინთის მაგივრად პროსტად.
Once you have earned your coin, it may be placed in the realm. In the trial of the Sekimas, each room has its own challenges to overcome. In this room, each rare monster you kill will send its blood to the chalice in the center of the room. Once the chalice is filled, you will be able to proceed. While fighting monsters in the trial, you will need to be very hurt you, but will damage your honor. The monsters are well telegraphed. Out of honor, you will fail the trial and need to find another coin in order to try again. It is a good idea to make sure that you are well prepared before challenging the trial. After each room you will be rewarded. In this case, you have been given a key that can trial. Once you have cleared trial,
silver key is
claimed your reward.
ლაბირინთია რა, silver key და
What do you want to claim? You with
golden key
for the entire trial. For example, entering this room and the rest of the trial to have 50% increased life. You will want to take care if you choose such a path. There are many different challenges.
Oh, იმენა ლაბირინთია რა.
Deadly traps, waves of monsters. And strange artifacts will test your honor. As you progress, you'll be able to gain boons from the jinn, which will help you on your journey. For example, the Sekima's cloak will revive you once if you die, giving you a second shot at a run.
ეს სანქტუმის თემატიკა აშკარად სანქტუმს გავს ძალიან. სანქტუმი და ლაბირინთის ის არის რაღაცა გაერთიანება.
Trading it with the jinn will allow you to receive many benefits. You can recover honor, gain additional boons, or remove a
სანქტუმია იდეაში რა. სუსტად სანქტუმია.
You'll find a powerful boss which will truly test your limitations. In order to ascend, you will need to defeat him. Having defeated the boss, you've earned the right to ascend. But first, the loot.
ანუ ლაბირინთი და სანქტუმი გააერთიანეს. ლაბირინთი ყველას ეზღებოდა, სანქტუმი ყველას ევასებოდა და რაღაც შუალედური გამოვიდა რა.
If you want to open the better ones, you'll need silver or gold keys. Let's use the altar of ascendancy.
მე მაგალითად ორი ეზღებოდა.
Pick your class and grant you 2 points to use in the trial.
მოიცა ორი რატო შეგიძლია არჩევა, სამი არ არის?
More rewards that can be found within the trial of the Sekimas, but we'll save that for the section on the end game. For now, let's talk about the second ascendancy trial, the trial of chaos. In Path of Exile 2, you can choose whichever trial you like to earn your ascension. Each culture on Rayclast had their own methods to ascend.
ანუ ორი არჩევანი რატო ქონდა, მაგან დამაბნია ახლა.
It's not your kind of playstyle, or you're finding it too difficult. You could try another. You can gain all your ascension points from just one, or mix and match them. It's up to you. For early access, we will have 2 trials as options, with a third trial coming later for the full release.
early access-ზე იქნება ორი არჩევანია. მეც არ გამიკვირდა, ზოგადად ერთ კლასზე სამი ტალანტია ხომ ასე ვთქვათ.
This ancient trial was once used by
უბრალოდ ანუ early access-ზე 6 დეკემბერს ორი იქნება. და მესამე მე ალბათ გვიან გამოვა, როცა თამაში გამოვა თვითონ.
A high priest of the Val must show willingness to risk everything to gain power. Entry to the trial requires a token from a strange entity known only as the Trial Master. For those in which he sees potential, he shall inscribe an ultimatum. Many have attempted these trials in search of greatness. Most have perished. Will you be able to defy the odds? Before you begin each chamber, the trial master will offer you a reward and a choice. Choose one of 3 tribulations to affect you through the rest of the trial.
ანუ ესეც იგივე სანქტომია რა.
Monsters, curse the player, or add environmental hazards like turrets or trap runes.
დაჟეს ისიც ვიზუალით სანქტომისა აქვს. არა, ეს უფრო იმას გავს.
As you enter the room, the trial master will fill it with hazards to test your
Oh,
command.
trial master
In
yes.
this case, you must destroy all the monsters that fill the room while dealing with the lightning projectiles from the shocking turrets. After each room, you will need to make a choice. Take the rewards you have earned so far, or go double or nothing. Increase your rewards, but take on more risk. Each tribulation you add is minor on its own, but they quickly stack on top of each other and can become overwhelming. There are many types of chambers in the trial. Each will test your resolve in different ways. This one simply requires you survive for a certain amount of time. Another requires you to
იმართლე რომ ეთქვას თუ ჩემი აზრით რა თუ ლაბირინთის მაგრად ეხლა რას უყურებ ეგ არის მოსაწონი არ არის იმიტომ რომ ლაბირინთიც ძალიან ტვინის ბურღვა იყო და სავალდებულო რო იყო და უნდა შესულიყავი და გეწვალა და ესეც თუ ეგრეა რომ უნდა გაწვალოს პროსტა ეგ ძალიან ცუდი არჩევანია
Of course there are the items, but you also gain the right to ascend. If you already did the trial of the Sekimers, then you can claim 2 more points to add to your ascendancy class.
ამას ლაბირინთი ჯობდა ეხა ჩემთვის მაგალითად რა ვარ
rewards and risks to take, but we'll talk more about that when we get to endgame. So how about we talk about that now? So far we've only been showing you footage from the campaign, but some people would argue that the endgame is where the game truly begins. Something that happens almost every time a new action RPG launches is people saying, there isn't enough endgame content. Well, we want to make sure that in PoE 2 people don't feel that way. And we actually only changed our development
Diablos უკბინა
recently.
endgame არა აქო
The first 3 acts of PoE 2 already take around 25 hours to complete if you're a new player. This is already a pretty significant
აუ პირველი 3 აქტი იქნება 25 საათიანიო
an endgame each league. We realized that finishing the rest of the campaign in early access was actually a bad idea. Instead of having acts 4 to 6 in early access, we could concentrate on endgame and make that great. For new players, a 25-hour campaign is already a huge game with lots of content. But for existing action RPG players, what you mostly care about is all the endgame challenges to overcome. So several months ago, we switched the entire development team's focus over to making in-game content. At the start of early access, there will be 50 bosses and around 400 monster types. But the great thing is,
50 bossi იქნება early access-ეო
we'll be adding content to roughly double the size of the game during early access and into release. Now, in order to make the endgame happen at the same character level as what it would be after we added the rest of the acts, we've added a second difficulty level called Cruel, where you repeat the campaign with all the monsters and bosses leveled up. And of course, new rewards. You can kind of think of it as like a new game plus. It's also a lot faster to get through the content the second time as your clear speed increases. That will take you to around level 65, where the endgame begins. Once we add the remaining 3 acts, we'll be removing Cruel difficulty, so you'll progress straight from
ანუ early access-ი ხა იქნება პირველ 3 აქტს გაიმეორებ ოღონდ უფრო რთულზე cruel ვერსიაზე და მე გადახვალ end game-ზე მაგრამ როცა გამოვამ მთლიანი აქტები თამაში მთლიანად გამოიღებენ ამ cruel-ს
One thing that Path of Exile is known for is having a lot of distinct endgame content to choose between. Each endgame mechanic needs to have its own progression system, areas, bosses, rewards, and player power that can only be gained from that content. We are going to be adding a lot more over time, but for Path of Exile 2 we decided to start with 7 distinct systems you can progress through. This is the Atlas, and it serves as the core of the endgame for Path of Exile 2.
კლასი არის ძალიან კარგი ხა როგორი ლამაზია
Now
ნახე
we are not going to spoil the plot too much here, but corruption from the beast has blighted the land and your objective is to help fight it. In the center of the Atlas you will find the ziggurat, a temple in which the Val research the fundamentals of space and time. Here, we can open portals to nearby locations and begin cleansing corruption and finding resources. In order to power the portal device, we will need waystones. Each waystone has a tier which will determine the level of the monsters that you will face. To go to an area, simply click one that is adjacent to an area that you have already completed. Insert the waystone and click Traverse. Portals will open, allowing you and your party to travel to the area you have selected. All the areas in the endgame feel distinct from the locations in the campaign, and we have dialed the randomization up to 11. The monster packs you will face in each map are totally random, and the combination of them can lead to some very interesting combat situations.
ვინ თქო Path of Exile ორი ნელი იქნებაო, შეხედე endgame-ში.
They have a lot of varied and interesting abilities. Depending on which combinations you face, you might find some serious challenges. In order to cleanse the corruption from the area, you will need to defeat all the powerful rare and unique enemies in it. Once you have done that, the area will be marked as completed and you will be able to travel past it to progress deeper into the world. If you die, then the map can no longer be run, and you will have to find another way around to get to the areas behind it. There are also all kinds of other random encounters you might run into as you play maps. One such encounter are precursor artifacts. These are ancient, corrupting monuments that irradiate the monsters
შრაინიც დავინახე, ეს კაია.
around them. The monsters that feed off the corruption are drawn to their power. If you defeat the monsters and cleanse the artifact, you will get a powerful temporary buff. Some of the buffs make you faster, others rain lightning or fire around you, and some even give you increased experience or help you find better items. You can also find strong boxes. These enigmatic chests guard piles of treasure, but are always a trap. Monsters lie in wait to attack you the moment you open it, and the boxes often have mechanisms to unleash powerful spells or dangerous debuffs. There are different types of strong boxes containing different items, and you can even use your currency items to craft them on the fly, so you can optimize the contents. But be careful of opening one you can't handle. Sometimes you'll discover monsters frozen in essences, solidified crystalline.
Essence-ები strong box-ები შრაინები არის.
Broken free.
ესენი Path of Exile ერთშიც იყო.
Essence they drop can be used to upgrade normal items to magic items with a guaranteed mod from a category. For example, we could use this one on some boots to ensure a movement speed mod.
35 move-speed-ი, რა
Essences
სიძახი.
also drop that allow you to upgrade magics to rares, adding the guaranteed mod. This is incredibly powerful since it allows you to get a second deterministic mod in your crafting projects. Combining these with the currencies that are commonly found in Rayclast for modifying items, and we can get a very nice pair of boots indeed. Waystones, like all items, can also be crafted using your currency items. Adding prefix mods will improve the rewards, while suffix mods increase danger. The more dangerous a map is, the more waystones will drop. Adding mods to your waystones is key to
მეფის აიკონი რგვალი იყო ხომ, ეხლა 4 კუთხედი გავუკეთებიათ.
will require you to take on larger challenges. There are a variety of factors you have to consider when crafting your waystones. Some maps will have higher density, some lower, some have more magic and rare chests, or monsters, some are more linear, and others more open. Make sure you explore and think about what makes certain maps good if you want to maximize your returns. As you cleanse corruption from higher and higher tiers of the Atlas, you will gain points that you can spend in the Atlas tree. This tree allows you to juice the danger and rewards of all areas in the endgame. You could increase the number of monsters, the number of rares, the number of precursor artifacts or strongboxes, even the quantity of item drops. As you explore the endgame world map, you'll notice various different biomes, from snow-capped mountains to dense jungle valleys. Most maps are restricted to certain biomes. As you continue to explore deeper into the Atlas, there are all sorts of things to discover. These cities are constructed by different peoples of Rayclast, and have specific items that can be found there. These strange structures marked on the map don't appear to do anything for now. Perhaps you'll work out how to use them later. You might find unique maps like Untainted Paradise, an undisturbed island full of beasts that give an extreme amount of experience. You may even find a lonely man just enjoying his retirement who will give you a unique item for free. In addition, you can find special areas that would make a good spot to set up camp. Clear these areas of their hostile inhabitants, and you'll be able to claim them as your own hideout. You can decorate your hideout as you see fit and invite various NPCs to join you there to create your own personal base of operations. A great tool for exploration are towers. These mysterious precursor constructs are dotted around the atlas. Completing the tower will reveal a large area around it, allowing you to scout out your next challenge. There are lots of things to find, so keep Some sections of your atlas are influenced by corruption. This adds extra modifiers to the maps in the region, increasing difficulty and rewards. Here, slaying monsters in close proximity to each other will cause the vestiges of corruption within them to merge together, forming powerful and grotesque abominations. You may have noticed while looking at the atlas that some of the areas have these icons above them. The icon indicates that the area contains some kind of special encounter. This icon indicates that the area has a powerful boss. Because only 1 in 4 maps contain a map boss, we are able to make them very powerful and very rewarding. These bosses come from the campaign, but have had their difficulty increased with changes to AI and some of their abilities. It's worth noting that because you can see where the bosses are, you can choose to take them on or avoid them. If you do choose to hunt bosses though, then you will be rewarded with special points for the boss hunting section of the Atlas skill tree. The points here will allow you to specialize in boss killing, giving you much greater rewards for defeating them. For each different type of content in the endgame, we are adding specialized trees in order to make it so you don't feel the need to respec your points when you change between different types of content. We will be showing you 7 of these by the end of this presentation, so there is still a lot more to come. Bosses are not the only icon you will see on the Atlas. Let's take a look at one of the endgame systems, Breach. If you played PoE 1, you might be familiar with Breach. For PoE 2, we have created several PoE 1 leagues. While the mechanic is familiar, the monsters, bosses, rewards, and progression are all new. A breach is a tear in the fabric of reality. Opening it will allow you to see the demons and otherworldly monstrosities that lie in wait on this other plane of existence. By engaging with a breach, you'll create a bridge between their world and Rayclast. In order to keep the breach open, you will need to kill the demons that pour forth. The faster you can kill the monsters, the more monsters you will fight, and the more loot you will find. You can also find clasped hands that will open and drop more items if you run over them. These can be a good boost to the rewards of the breach, so keep an eye out. One of the rewards that you may find while fighting monsters from Breach are tablets.
Breach-ი არ არის მაინც ჩემი ტიპი თამაშის endgame-ის.
Breaches will drop breach tablets. Clicking on a completed tower will allow you to consume the tablet to add more breaches to areas within range of the tower. This makes all the content in the Atlas self-sustaining. Want to do more breaches? Find the tablets, add them to your towers, get more breaches, getting more tablets. Soon your Atlas will be covered in otherworldly domains. In addition, like all items in PoE, you can craft them. Use your currency to add mods to your tablets, allowing you to upgrade all the breaches in range. Tablets can have up to 2 mods. These mods do things like adding extra rare monsters, extra clasped hands, or even monster density of breaches, allowing you to keep them open longer. Often, you will find multiple towers near to each other with overlapping areas of effect. This can allow you to really juice the mechanic by stacking the mods from multiple tablets. In your fight to hold the breach demons at bay, you may want to use the powers of their world against them. Each endgame mechanic always has player power that can only be gained from that mechanic, and Breach is no different. In Breach, you will find catalysts, items that can increase the quality of rings and amulets by improving specific mobs. You can also find Breach Rings, a special base type that can have its quality improved by catalysts up to 50%. In this case, you could create a ring with around 170 life. Breach Rings can become some of the strongest rings in the game, giving you some good motivation to face the demon hordes. In addition, each endgame mechanic needs to have a pinnacle endgame encounter. While killing breach monsters, you may find breach splinters. Collect enough of these and you'll be able to create a breach stone. Using a vile technology called the Realm Gate, you can use your breach stone to access their domain and bring the fight to them. In this twisted domain, you will find nothing but a single...
მაინტერესებს ხა ეს ატლასის სისტემა როგორ იმუშავებს. განსხვავებულია PoE 1-ში ესე არ იყო.
And should you be fast enough, you will be able to fight their leader, Zesht. We that are one.
We that dreamed.
აუ რა სერიოზული კომბატი აქვს.
One of the pinnacle encounters of PoE 2. We won't be showing the rest of them, so you will have to discover them for yourself. But rest assured, this is some of the hardest content we have ever made. All of these encounters have specific uniques that can only be found from them, but that's not all. We still have the progression system. Defeating Zesht will give you points to allocate into the breach section of the Atlas tree. Allocating these points will make breaches and the breach domain even harder, but will give you more rewards. The small nodes will increase the difficulty of the twisted domain, while the large nodes have more specific bonuses. For example, this node adds more clasped hands to your breaches, and adds a pack of magic monsters that can guard them. Get some more points and you can allocate Waking Nightmare, which will double the number of splinters you get from clasped hands, and inflict you with a mysterious debuff. In order to earn more points, you will need to defeat Zesht at a higher difficulty, and some rewards from Zesht can only be found by increasing the difficulty of the Twisted Domain above certain thresholds. Defeating Zesht at difficulty 4 will be a challenge indeed, but there are many more threats in Breaklast. Ritual altars are sacrificial
აი
sites
რიტუალი მომწონდა
built by the
ყოველთვის Sky-ია.
mysterious King in the Mists.
თუ იქნება early access-ში
If you
გამეხარდება.
encounter this symbol on the atlas, then you know that the area contains ritual altars.
მენიერია რიტუალი.
Ritual altars demand tribute. Every monster you slaughter in the circle will feed the altar. After the sacrifice, touch it to begin the ritual. The monsters you just killed will be resurrected by the King of the Mist's dark magic, and you must fight to survive. The tribute you have offered to the altar can be spent to buy powerful items, but they can be expensive. To gain more tribute, you will want to find more altars. Each successive ritual you do within an area will spawn the monsters revived by the previous ones, in addition to the ones you sacrifice next to it. By the end of an area, you will be fighting a truly imposing number of foes, but will have a significant amount of tribute to spend. One of the rewards you can buy with tribute are omens. These are special items that allow for meta-crafting. Crafting items that affect other crafting items. Have an item with good prefixes but bad suffixes? This omen will help you to remove the mod you don't want, while keeping the ones you do. There are a bunch more of these with different effects, but we will leave them for you to discover. Now don't forget that Ritual will also drop tablets, which can be used to specialize into getting more rituals. If you want to get to the pinnacle boss of Ritual, then you will probably want to use them. They can also be crafted to grant mods, making your rituals more rewarding. The pinnacle encounter of Ritual is the King in the Mists. Feared by the Asmeri people, he is said to have brought eternal darkness to the Wildwood.
ანუ ყველა მიმართულებას და ყველა end game სისტემას თავის ბოლო ბოსი ეყოლება pinnacle boss-ი.
And you will gain points in the ritual section of the Atlas tree. Some maps have been touched by insanity. A mysterious entity has taken a special interest in you. Step through the looking glass and you will find your nightmares coming to life. When you touch a mirror, the mists of delirium will spread out.
Delirium არის ვიდეო კარტის სიკვდილის მოახლოება.
Which is as profitable as it is terrible.
Delirium-ს რო რთავდი, ეგრევე 10 გრადუსი ემატება ვიდეო კარტას. გაცხელება.
The stronger the monsters are. Be careful not to overstay your welcome. Rare and unique enemies will become vessels.
მაგარია Delirium, მაგრამ ყოველთვის საართული იყო და
powerful attacks on you.
ჭედავდა თამაშს სერიოზულად.
Crafting material, distilled emotions. By combining these emotions, you are able to instill your amulet with a notable from the passive skill tree. This is like gaining an extra passive point for free, attached to your gear. They are also particularly great because you don't have to traverse the tree to get them, allowing you to get off-class bonuses that would normally be much harder to get.
ოღონდ ეს Blight-ის encounter-ზე იყო და ეხლა აქეთ გადმოიტანეს.
To instill your in-game maps, applying Delirious to them and adding additional difficulty and rewards, allowing you to further juice your in-game maps. The tablets you can find from Deliria can be used to further improve it, increase pack size, make the fog dissipate slower, or improve your progress towards the pinnacle encounter of Delirium. Speaking of which, every now and then you will find simulacrum splinters. The mysterious entity will create strange encounters based on warped versions of your own memories. Monsters and simulacrums come in waves that get progressively more difficult.
Simulacrum-ი ჩემი არ არის რა. ისე რა საინტერესოა, მთავარი მასტერები არ გამოუჩენია ჯერ. ალოა იყო ერთ თიზერში. ნიკო უეჭველი იქნება, სინდიკატიც იქნება წესით. აინარიც უნდა იყოს.
You will gain points for the Delirium section of the Atlas skill tree. Next up we have
Expedition-ი არის მაგარია.
Occasionally, while clearing corruption, you will encounter these Kalguran settlers. The Kalgurans have discovered ancient burial sites with lost Verisium artifacts, and they want you to help dig them up with...
ეს Sky video კარტის კვლელი არის. Explosions რო აკეთებ, იმენა იწვება ეგ CPU და GPU.
There is just one problem. Corruption has brought the corpses of their ancestors to life, so you might have to do a little cleanup before you can reclaim the artifacts. You can also find remnants, the destruction of which will further anger the restless dead. Each one you blow up will make the subsequent monsters more powerful, but also more rewarding. Danig, Rog, Tujin, and Gwenin will exchange the artifacts for useful items.
ესეც იგივეა PO1-ში იყო ზუსტად
also
ესა.
find tablets to increase the number of expeditions and the rewards. This one increases the radius of explosives, while this one increases the number of remnants you will find. Eventually, you might discover a logbook. These are special maps full of buried treasure and relics, essentially one giant dig site. Here, you can create an extremely long chain of explosives and go through a very high number of remnants. But be careful,
ამასო
many remnants
ეს
of mobs
რა
can
არის?
really brick your build, so you will probably want to avoid these ones.
თელირუკა explosion-ები იყო.
You could easily make the encounter harder than you can handle. There are all sorts of interesting things buried under the ground in logbooks. You might find dripping caves and hidden pirate caches. But the most powerful encounter is Olroth, the ancient undead commander of the Knights of the Sun. Defeating him will grant you unique rewards, as well as points to spend in the expedition section of the Atlas tree. So those are the in-game systems on the Atlas, but we are not done yet. The trials we talked about earlier have much more content when you get to endgame too. Just like the other endgame systems, they also have progression mechanics, unique rewards, and player power that can only be gained from them. As you get higher level coins for the Trial of the Sycamores, you will unlock more floors to explore. Each floor has its own challenging rooms and a floor boss that you will need to kill. There are 4 floors in total, leading to another pinnacle boss at the end of the last floor, which can only be accessed at endgame. The Trial of the Sycamores is where you'll find jewels, which you can socket into your tree. These are like passives that you can craft with your currency items. They can be really powerful as they allow you to stack modifiers that may not be easily accessible on the tree normally. This jewel gives lightning damage and shock charge.
Cluster jewel-ებიც არიან ისევ, ეგეც კაია.
Sockets on the tree, so it's possible to gain a lot of power here. There are also other types of jewels that don't provide any bonuses themselves, but affect other passives surrounding them. This jewel increases the effect of small nodes and radius by 25%. With careful placement in the tree, you could get a significant amount of power from it. There are also unique jewels available with very interesting effects, but you will have to find those for yourself. In order to push further into the trial and uncover the secrets of the Maraketh, you will want to take advantage of its progression system, relics. Relics are items that can be placed in the relic altar as you start the trial. They give special bonuses that affect the trial, making it easier and increasing its rewards. Of course, you can craft these with your currency items, making them even stronger.
აუ, ვეგლა 1 საათია უყურებ, იმდენი რაღაცა აილაპარაკეს. აი, თავი ამეხადა რა. იდეაში ბაზა თამაშის იგივე რჩება რა. რაც იყო endgame-ები, რავი, რიტუალი, ბრიჩი, ბიონდი, სანქტუმი. ეგენი ყველაფერი ისევ იქნება. Early access-ზე 3 აქს გახსნიან 6-ის მაგივრად, 6 იქნება სულ. Endgame-ში რო გადახვიდე, უბრალოდ პირველი 3 აქტი გადათამაშდება მეორედ. უფრო რთულ mode-ზე რა და 6 აქტი ეგრე შეიკრება, მაგრამ თამაში როცა გამოვა უკვე, მერე იქნება 6 აქტი ჩვეულებრივად. 65 level-ამდეა ეგ აქტები და მერე endgame-ია. ლაბირინთი ამოიღეს და რაღაცა ლაბირინთი და სანქტუმი გააერთიანეს, ascendancy point-ები რო აიღო. რაღაც challenge-ები იქნება, რა, კარგად ვერც მე ვერ მივხვდი ზუსტად როგორ იქნება.
The Trial Master will tempt you with items of the Vaal Empire, such as Vaal Orbs. Vaal Orbs are powerful crafting items that corrupt your gear with random, mysterious outcomes. Corruption prevents an item from being modified further.
6 კლასი გაიხსნება თავიდან და Monkey, Witch, Sorcerer, Warrior, Monkey და Mercenary.
If you use one on your body armor, it might add a new powerful enchantment.
ო, skill gem-ების მანებზე აღარ იქნება სოკეტები რა. ცალკე UI გაუკეთეს მაგას.
Also have the ability to add a socket, allowing you to bypass the normal restriction of how many sockets an item can have. A body armor could get up to 3 sockets this way, allowing for a significant
ანუ პროსტურად skill gem-ები აღარ ჩაჯდება აი ზვანებში რა, როგორც ადრე იყო.
Adding enchantments or sockets to uniques can make them incredibly powerful, but there is a good chance that you will break them as well. The Trial Master will also occasionally offer you soul cores. Originally formed by chaos, the Vaal sought
ანუ ეს NDC point-ები რო აიღო, რაღაც trial-ები იქნება რა. და point-ებს ეგრე აკრიფავ. ატლასი მთლიანად შეცვალეს, სხვანაირად იყო. Last Epoch-ი თუ ითამაშე, მაგას გავდა ძალიან. ყველა მიმართულებასო კიდე რა, rituals, beyonds, breach რა. Pinnacle boss-ები ეყოლება თავისი.
Had enough yet? Because there is still just one more thing. The most difficult content in Path of Exile 2. While mapping, you might come across this fortress.
აი ეს არის ახალი ატლასი ზუსტად რა, როგორც გამოიყურება.
An enormous maze riddled with danger. Is the maze preventing something from getting in or something getting out? This fortress is of ancient origin, and its construction has similarities to the towers and tablets that you have been using on your journey through the endgame. It is clear from the entrance that there are 3 keys required to enter. Local factions are vying for access to the fortress in order to seize the power they believe will be inside. Each of the faction's leaders have managed to get their hands on one of the keys, so you will need to defeat them. Each faction is led by an Uber-Act boss. You can see one of them inhabiting the city, but in order to fight him, you will first need to defeat their 2 lieutenants in the adjacent zones. Be careful. If you fail against either of the lieutenants, or to kill the leader, they will move on, and you will need to find
თვითონ დორიანი გაიჩითა. აუ, რა სიძახი დორიანი გაიჩითა თვითონ.
Can't wait to see you guys attempt it for the first time. But is there a tree you get points in after killing it? Of course there is. This is Path of Exile. There is always another tree.
So these are your challenges for PoE 2. As you can see, this project is crazy huge. Way bigger than even we expected when we started out. But how do you gain access? Well, during early access, you'll need a key to get in. To thank our existing PoE supporters who have spent more than 4
ნახოთ ახლა early access-ი როგორ შეგიძლია რომ დაითრიო.
PC version for free.
Supporter pack-ები შეიუნა იყიდო იასნია.
One by purchasing one of the new early access supporter packs that have just been released to the store. If you just want early access to PoE 2, then you can get a key in the $30 early access.
ჩვეულებრივი ხის $30-ია მინიმალური.
Spend in the MTX store.
იგივეა რა, 30, 60, 100 და ეგრე ისდება.